What's going on, Laredo, Texas? Welcome to Talking Throws Podcast, Texas Style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we are about to record episode 65 of season 5, kicking the 2022 year off. We want to thank our sponsors for season 5. What can we do without those guys? Texas Track and Field Coach Association. Go to ttfca.org and check out the latest in Texas for track and field news. Anywhere from results to scheduling for outdoor high school meets are about to start in February here in a couple of weeks. So go check those out. And you can go to ttfca.org to find out those schedules. We want to thank our favorite implement company, 4throws.com. You can go to 4throws.com and use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. You can find all training tools. You can even find this really cool Fiber Sports Discus that we're using. Everybody seems to think it's pretty hot right now, so go check it out. You can go to fibersports.com to get the technology on why the Discus is flying like it is. Go to 4throws.com and use our code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off for those Discus as well. But also too, at 4throws.com, did you know you can get medicine ball, cones, throwing nets, you can get measuring tapes, field markers, you can get javelin equipment as well. So if you're looking for anything throwing, go to 4throws.com and those guys will help you out. Our favorite portable circle, portacircle.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to go to porta-circle.com. Again, use that code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off and follow them on Instagram as well. Our favorite athletic development, Zach Phillips in Austin, Texas. Ready Up Athletic Development. Contact Zach at 512-507-8347. You can go to his website, readyupad.com, or follow Ready Up on Instagram or on Facebook. And then again, Fiber Sports Discus, developed by Bruce Caldwell. You can go to fibersportsdiscus.com, a new way to get the distance without looking just out the certain rim weight. So we've had a lot of positive feedback with the Fiber Sports Discus for boys and girls. If you want to know why, the research and all that type of stuff, go to that website and you'll get some education on why the discus flies like it does.
What's that?
So, oops, sorry.
Siri was listening.
So also too, we are gearing up for private lessons, getting ready for the high school outdoor season. Coach Kai is running west at the Thorn Factory. We just saw him in the Lubbock area at the indoor meet in Lubbock, Texas. So go check him out if you're in the West Texas area and looking for lessons or for javelin or looking to join a team. And then Coach Jarvis is running east at the Thorn Factory, and he's doing work with a lot of kids from East Texas. You can find their emails and cell phones on the thornfactory.com. And then also remind everybody that we have a YouTube channel now. You can go to the YouTube channel, Talking Throws Podcast, and give us a thumbs up and check out the episodes that we're doing on there as well. Today's guest on episode 65, she's currently throwing for the University of Virginia. She has a PR of 163 feet 10 inches. She's a graduate from Laredo United High School in 2018. She was a 3-time state qualifier in the discus. She placed 3rd in the discus her junior and senior year. She has a PR in high school of 159.4, and she's also a 2-time state qualifier in the shot put. She was also named Laredo Female Athlete of the Year 3 times, and she was also a 2-time state champion in B.E.S.T Robotics Competition for the state of Texas out of Laredo United High School. Please welcome Sadey Rodriquez to our show.
Hello, hi.
Hey, Sadey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Excited to meet you all.
Oh, good.
We're excited to meet you. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. I actually just came from my lift, so here I am.
Good.
Ask, are you skipping class to do this, or what was your day like?
No, I'm actually part-time right now because it's my last semester. So I'm only taking 2 classes, which is great. So no need to skip class.
There you go.
Did he make you do any of those Copman curls?
Zotman curls?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do that today. That was last week's programming,
Okay.
but those are killer. Today I did have curls though. So
No,
I guess we're working on biceps this semester.
Hey, sun's out, guns out in Virginia.
Yep. Not right now. It's so cold.
Is it?
I bet.
Okay.
I don't know if you've listened to any of our past episodes, but basically we just kind of bring a voice to talking all things throwing in the state of Texas. And so you're a really cool story because we want to find out, how did a Laredo girl from the sort of the valley grow to find herself in Virginia, and what is that transition been like?
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks for being on. So tell us, how did you get started throwing? What grade you were in and how did it all start?
Yeah, I started in middle school. So I was in gymnastics for a long time, recreational gymnastics, not competitive. I was too much of a scaredy cat to do all the flips all the time, I was much of a daredevil. But I really found the love of, women empowerment through gymnastics, especially because I was at an all-girls gym. And so I was obsessed with the idea, like, I want to be one of the strong people that I see on TV and in the Olympics. And I saw hammer throwing, shot put. So I picked up shot put in 7th grade. Yeah, or 6th grade, maybe 6th grade, 7th grade, around there. And I started throwing that. And then I found myself to be pretty good at that. And just mostly because I think gymnastics gave me a sense of bodily control. So I was able to pick it up a lot quicker than most. And then in 9th grade, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a shot putter. And mind you, I was like way scrawnier than I am now. And I'm still on the relatively thin side for throwers anyway. And I was even more scrawny. So it was just my dream. And then one of my friends convinced me, you should do discus too. And then I went to a summer camp and he was like, well, let's do shot put and discus. I was like, discus, like I hate discus. I can't do it. So I did suck for a good 3 months. And then all of a sudden it just started, picking up. It was just something fun that I was doing. And eventually I was like, wait, I'm throwing further enough. I could maybe go to college for this. Like, wow. Yeah. But it was never the center of my life.
Who was the camp?
It was just with a coach from United. His name is Luis Laureano. And he was the first one who got me started and everything. So he had been going to different workshops and coaching events, and he had just a camp for the throwers that were coming in that year. Okay. So it was my freshman year that I really started taking throwing more seriously in terms of spending time, doing it, right? I was practicing for like 2 hours. And once I started to become good, none of the coaches I had in high school were former throwers. They didn't have experience. We were learning together. It was a learning together process. And we did really well. And then going into junior year, I really needed some extra help. So I started doing other camps. I went to an Oregon camp even. It was my first time. I traveled by myself. Yeah. There was even a flight delay and I got stuck like in the Oregon airport. And my parents were super worried about me.
You come from an athletic, competitive family. What was your family's background to kind of, put you in this spotlight of throwing or even gymnastics?
Honestly, my parents said that ever since I was a little girl, like I just was very competitive and self-driven. But my mom was a star high school athlete. She had me when she was 20, though, so it didn't really go right. So like right at the end of high school, beginning of college, so it didn't really go anywhere for her in athletics, and she didn't even know it was necessarily a thing. But my parents have always been super encouraging of girl power and everything. So they really supported me in whatever I wanted to do. So gymnastics was one of those avenues that led to throwing.
Yeah. We're going to fight over questions.
So in middle school, did you do anything else other than track or even up through high school? Did you do other sports or did you quit the gymnastics and just throw?
No, I did gymnastics. And actually interesting. I started volunteering coaching just because you're legally not able to coach yet for gymnastics, because at the time my family was going through financial struggles. So I paid for my gymnastics classes by doing volunteer work there at the gym. And then also started, this wasn't high school. So middle school, I did basketball and that was my other event. And I also did running. I did some running, some sprints, but I kind of already found my path more quickly because I was comparing myself, on athletic.net to national performers and stuff. So I was like, I don't think running is for me.
Now, you said earlier that you were kind of not the biggest person, kind of when you were a freshman. We kind of give us a visual of how big you were?
Yeah, so I was like, I would say 130 pounds. And I hadn't lifted before. So I just started lifting in ninth grade. And
How tall
it
were
was
you?
just very basic lifting. Yeah, and throwing. So I started doing both in ninth grade, and it was just very basic lifting.
Okay. How tall are you?
Excuse me?
How tall were you?
How tall were I? Well, so I've actually been 5'7" since I was 12, 13, and I haven't grown since.
Wow.
Oh, so you're tall.
So I was pretty tall.
Lanky.
Yeah, I was tall and lanky, which is not bad for discus. It was pretty good as long as you're a little lanky,
Yeah. So you transitioned from your junior high in your freshman year, and you throw 126 your freshman year in the discus. That's a big mark for a freshman, especially someone 5'7", 130 pounds with no weightlifting experience. Was that something you worked with on your coach? Kind of tell us, were you doing a full rotational discus at that time?
Yeah, full rotation. I would say my technique was just, I must have just hit the discus. Like, I think I just had a good feel for the discus. That's like the main thing. And I guess we'll talk about that later in the collegiate career. But I mean, my footwork technique was just like absolutely horrendous. I would throw with my arm, just like here the whole time. I don't know. It was very interesting technique, unique. Yeah. But after that, it was just mostly I was trying to copy people from videos, but I didn't know who to copy. So that's kind of how that ended up happening. And sophomore year of high school, I took a bit of a dip at first. We had different coaching changes.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm changing techniques. And honestly, the next 2 years were kind of a blur for me. Everything happened so fast that, I mean, even now I'm graduating college and I'm like, where did all the time go? I have no idea. I've been throwing for a while now.
Yeah. Now, you threw shot put your sophomore year and your freshman year. Were you a glider or rotational?
Rotation.
Okay, you were. Okay.
Yeah, rotation.
Now,
and I was doing pretty good for city standards, but not really so much for state and collegiate standards. So I made the choice to focus on discus because I knew that could take me further.
Yeah. Now, yeah. And so in college, you're just doing discus right now, right?
Correct. I've dabbled in other things, but that's just for fun.
Now, your track background in Laredo has a strong history of like javelin throwers and a lot of great throwers coming out of that area. Did you look at doing javelin as well, maybe in the summer track or anything like that?
One of the camps I had was with Emily Humphrey. I contacted her for a personal session, and I talked with multiple different javelin people also, several others from Laredo. And one of the big things was that javelin throwers are more prone to injury, especially with shoulder and elbow. So I didn't want to start learning on my own for that because I knew it was a very sensitive sport in terms of technique and you can really hurt yourself. So I just talked with, not to discourage anyone from doing javelin, but I just knew that if I wanted to start, I'd rather start with like a coach in college or something.
Gotcha. So you go to your sophomore year and you make it to state in the discus. And I think you throw, your best throw that mark was 129, which was a little improvement from your freshman year. Were things starting to become more comfortable from that freshman year to that sophomore year? Yeah,
a little more comfortable, but also a little more pressure because when I was a freshman, I was like, it doesn't matter whatever mark I hit. Like I'm just a freshman. Yeah. So in terms of nervousness, it was a little higher.
Yeah. What was it like going to state your that sophomore year throwing in Texas? Did you go to Texas?
Well, I have an interesting story. So freshman year, I probably should have made it to state, but I got to regionals and was going to practice, at the ring there in San Antonio. And I had an asthma attack, had allergic reaction in the hotel. I was sent to the ER and I stayed there for about like 6 to 8 hours in medical care because I went into anaphylactic shock. And they told me I couldn't do any activity for the next, the next couple days. And so I was, on steroids and a bunch of medication. They even told me like, don't even walk the stadium. I was like, what? So Yeah, then so that was really scary for me and my parents, and really disappointing because I had the top mark going into regionals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in my freshman year, and I think that's what really catapulted me to want to train a lot the following summers, because I wanted to make it to that state level, because it was just so close in my reach, and it was something that I couldn't really control. But I still ended up competing just because, I don't know, I was so defeated, and my coaches were like, yeah, you can just compete, just take it easy. So freshman year, that was kind of my motivation to really want to work hard to get to state the next year. And so that's what happened between that freshman and sophomore year, was that event that, really helped me find my dedication and love for the sport. Yeah.
I hated that it takes something like that, but but it got you going, huh?
Yeah, it did. It definitely did.
Now, at this time, you said you've had some coaches change. Now, was this the different guy that you had in your freshman year? Was you had a different coach at this time?
Yes, honestly, I'm not sure when the coaching change happened. So I was we did a split between one time. I don't even know when this was, but we had a split between coaches between discus and shot put. So it was one coach for discus, one coach for shot put. And then we did, okay, actually it's going to be one coach for boys, one coach for girls.
Oh,
so then we were, so we kind of changed up a lot. And then as the coaches started seeing my potential in discus, that's when we made the shift just to only discus. And I had to really convince them. I was like, I know you want me to score points and all that, but we only have an hour after school to practice. And I don't want to do 30 minutes of discus and 30 minutes of shot put. I want to do all of discus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, going into your junior year, you go to Texas Relays, have some good experience there. You go back to state. Or have you put on some weight? Are you starting to lift weights at this time?
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking about throwing in college? What's kind of your mindset going into that junior year?
Yeah, going into the junior year, I knew that was when everyone started doing recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at this point, I was good enough for D3, D2 college, but I still wasn't there at the colleges that I really wanted. Yeah. Mind you, I'm also a really academics driven person. So I wanted those high academic schools. It wasn't just, I wasn't just going to go to a place just because I got an athletic scholarship. I wanted to go because I really enjoyed the academic experience also. So one of my goals was, I was obsessed with University of Texas for a long time. And then University of Oregon, that's when I did the camp. But junior year is when I really started doing camps and started looking at colleges. Yeah, and I also started lifting a lot more seriously. But that year was a changer because I want to say I PR'd pretty well that year. I think I hit 140s or maybe 130s. 130s. Yeah, 130s. And that was honestly a frustrating year for me because the D1 standard is above 140.
Yeah.
So you kind of, when you're talking to coaches, right, and our season's like in February, so you want to come up with that 140 mark early in that year. You don't want to leave it behind. So it was I worked really hard that year, met a lot of people, did a lot of coaching with different people, watched a lot of videos, but in the end it was very frustrating because I didn't see the results until senior year.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So just, you seem pretty advanced on your technique for discus and stuff like that. What were a couple of your cues that you kind of developed, going into your high school? And I'm sure they probably changed, but do you remember anything that you had that kind of helped you in your throw during your high school years?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one to think about. The thing I had the most trouble with was my sweep. So, I mean, there's a lot of different techniques, as you know, but I tend to stray away from the, I guess you can say, like, American technique. Mm-hmm. And this came later on. So senior year, in between junior and senior year, I met a family that they're Tijerenas, and they really helped me because I started training in the Valley with a couple of throwers there. And it only took 4 sessions, and that's how I PR'd the 20 feet because I made a simple change, which was with, I guess, keeping my shoulder in front.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to explain without showing, but like keeping my shoulder in front, and when I land in the power or standing position, of really being lined up with my arms also, not just like trying to yank it and throw right away. So it was like being patient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And who was this that you worked with?
I worked with Celio Navarro, RGB throws.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in the Valley, and I don't even know if they're still up right now, but the Tijerina family, Julian Tijerina, he's a really great thrower right now, upcoming thrower. He's still in high school, but yeah, that family helped me so much just because like I said, my family was really struggling financially. So they saw the potential in me and really took me in. And I had some throwing sessions with them, and I really enjoyed it and learned a lot from that. So that's how I got to college, because I finally hit that 150 mark.
Well, it was all commended by your family. Your mom and dad had to get you to those sessions. I'm sure it was not an easy drive. I'm sure it was kind of far away from home, to kind of get you there.
Yeah. So
right?
Yeah, the Tijerinas actually took me. So they were the ones that would drive me, because the sons would also go. Yeah. So and it was crazy. Like, they would buy me meals and stuff. And I would just forever be grateful for that. I feel like that was a very pivotal moment. And that goes to the whole, like, that's just a testament to throwing in general. We're such a tight-knit community and willing to help each other. And I think that's how it should be. And I'm grateful for that community.
Wow. That's a really cool story. So you get there your senior year, your junior year, you get to state, you get third. Then but you're still not where the marks where you want to be. You come around your senior year, you do the Texas relays, you're working with this specialty coach, and you're starting to see the marks. Are you starting to get recruiting letters as well after that?
No, not junior, not of the whole of junior year. So it was it was interesting. It was different from most people. So senior year is when I start to get some of recruiting calls. So it was just schools in Texas, but they were mostly D2 and D3 schools. And that's not what I was looking for. So I was basically emailing a lot of schools instead, the schools that I was applying to already.
Out to those schools.
Yeah, I was reaching out, because unless you're like a national performer, that's doing something crazy, or even world performer at the D1 level, you need to be a world performer. Then you're not really going to get a lot of the recognition. So you need to email. So the first, I was in touch, I was between going to Rice in Houston and then UVA. Those were my two big ones that I had to decide between my senior year.
Really? Wow. So how did did you email UVA first, and that's how the whole conversation started to go to Charlottesville?
So I always recorded my throws, because I was always throwing alone for the most part in high school. So I got my best throws, which now I look back and I'm like, but I got my best throws. I got a YouTube playlist, emailed different coaches from different schools I was interested in. And some don't have the contact info, some do. But I emailed that throwing list, a little bit about me, my academics, because SAT scores are very important. Especially at academic institutions. Like, for example, Rice, they have some slots for people, but for the most part, you need to get accepted into the school first before you get recruited. So you set up a YouTube playlist and say a bit about yourself. And he was one of the first people to email me back, and we had been talking for a couple months before I visited. Yeah.
Do you kind of and I'm kind of curious, because we run across this all the time. Is there certain stuff that you were kind of coached to say in this email, or did you just kind of put your heart out there in this email and say, okay, God, kind of take control of it?
Yeah. So a little bit of both. I would say that you don't want to sound too desperate when you're writing an email, of course, but you do want to sound interested. Like, hi, my name is Sadey. I'm a senior at blah, 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 interested in throwing at the collegiate level. I enjoyed the academic institution of whatever it is, this part of your university. And if you would like to have a conversation about throwing, I would love that. Like, in that kind of way. You wouldn't want to be like, I've been throwing for 4 years and it's my dream to go to the Olympics. Like, that would be a little too much. But yeah, definitely learn about the university before you start talking to the coaches.
Awesome.
That's definitely beneficial. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Before we get your recruitment to University of Virginia, let's talk about robotics. How did you, the academics, two-time state champion, what is B.E.S.T stand for, and how did that come about, being a state champion in that?
I don't even know what B.E.S.T stands for. We always just called it B.E.S.T.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, it's a robotics competition. There are different ones. There's one called FIRST, there's one called B.E.S.T, and there's some other couple ones.
Okay.
But they all have these longer acronyms that we're not sure what they stand for. But it's something engineering, science, and technology.
I got you. Got you.
So I joined robotics freshman year. Yeah. And I had always been into coding and engineering. So I was in the engineering magnet of my high school. And I just thought that was a fun way to connect with people. And I had always wanted to become a mechanical engineer. That was my dream at the time, to do that. So I worked on building the robot. My job freshman year was just to use the power tools to cut out the structure for the robot, which was really fun to do, especially as a woman, because there wasn't a lot of women there doing it at the time. Yeah. And it was a lot of hard work. I would stay till like 10 p.m. at night in robotics. So I would go to practice, go to the lockers to shower, and then go back. So I would start robotics like around 6 and then stay till like sometimes 10 or later, depending on competition, building robots and coding. And there's also a presentation aspect to all of it. I was in charge of the engineering notebook. So I would do all the writing, and yeah, that was really fun, but really time consuming also. So I was pretty busy.
Yeah, it sounds like
along
it.
with all your throwing.
So did you win that state championship your junior and senior year, or like sophomore, senior? Which kind of year was it, or how did it play out?
Yeah, it was freshman year and junior year, I believe.
Really?
There was a gap between two. It was either that or it was sophomore and senior. Honestly, it's all blurring out.
So it was all like a team. You had like everybody was responsible for a certain role in this team.
Yeah, we had the marketing people, we had the engineering people, and then like operations that would. Wow. Yeah, we had a whole structure. It was really cool because it kind of mimicked like a company.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds cool. And I'm guessing, just I could see your brain thinking and stuff too. That type of meticulous work and detailed work was also probably your biggest attribute of being a thrower as well, right?
Exactly. And even just, I think the whole thing about throwing is that you need to be so in touch with every single little detail, like you said. Like, right, your foot being 1 inch off can cause 5 feet. Like, you can drop the throw, like, at least in discus, like 5 feet. It's crazy. So the same thing with robotics. And I was very meticulous so I was in charge of the engineering notebook mostly. So I was very meticulous with, okay, this needs to be formatted exactly this way, and we need to make sure we're honing in on these words in the right way. So yeah, it's the personality trait definitely with a lot of throwers, is to be very detail oriented.
Yeah. Well, you probably were very high ranked in your class, weren't you? Coming out of United.
Yes. Yeah, I was. Are you talking about graduating or coming?
Yeah, graduating class.
Yeah, I was number 5.
Oh wow! And how many?
Yeah, 1,000 something, 1,080.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, it was a lot of hard work. So I did a lot of the AP courses and.
Wow. So was academics something your mom and dad really pushed as an early age, or was that just something that you were just driven for?
Oh yeah, they pushed for it. It would be if I got a 99 on the report card, it'd be Sadey, what is this? Yeah.
Really?
No 99s.
And that was even early in elementary and junior high?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Wow, okay.
It was always there. So still if I, it's different in college, obviously, because you don't need 100.
Yeah.
But even then, for the first year of college, I was like, no, I got a 95. Like,
which is good for college.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Meredith McGee, and my father is the founder of Porta Circle. We created Porta Circle in order to make throwing more accessible so that you can truly train anywhere. Growing up in Rochester, weather was often a roadblock toward training, and having the Porta Circle was a lifesaver for both the indoor and outdoor season. Circles start at $149 and go to our website to learn more. www.porta-circle.com. Porta Circle, making training convenient.
Oh, all right, let's get back to recruiting. So you send these emails to Coach Martin, and I'm from Texas, and I got a redneck accent.
You can say Merrick.
Merrick, thank you. So you contact Martin Merrick, who is, legendary thrower, building a strong reputation for throws coach. You just had to be elated when you heard back from him, right?
I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. Like, and honestly, one of the reasons I chose USBA was because Coach Merrick I can't even speak highly enough about him. But he's a person who sees a lot thrower for them as a person and not just a thrower. And that is really difficult to find in the college scene, especially when people are fighting for funding and wanting those numbers. So he's not just about the numbers. He really is very personal in how he trains. And I can't speak highly enough about him. He's just a great person. And in the recruiting process, some people will try to swoon you in with all these, you're going to get this, you're going to get this. And he was more like very genuine about everything that was going to happen, and really gave me the choice if I wanted to be there or not. It wasn't like, I really hope you come. It's like, you know what, I want to see if this is a good fit for you. Let's have a real conversation. This is how the university works. There are good days, there are bad days. Like, he was very transparent, and that's what I really enjoyed about that experience.
Wow. Did you do a recruiting trip out there? Did you go on a recruiting trip? All that, your family?
Yeah. So the first one I went to was at Rice.
Okay.
And my dad fell in love with Rice. So this is another issue. My dad fell in love with Rice, but when I went, I fell out of love with Rice.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that was the place I was going to go. That was like, if I was going to go to Texas, I was going to go to Rice. And then I went to Virginia, and I just fell in love with Virginia. I fell in love with the way Coach Merrick has set up the throwing team. The throws team is just very close knit, and I just loved the Charlottesville community and the area. It's very mountainy and very different from Texas.
Yeah, very different from Houston, too.
Or Laredo.
Yeah, Houston.
Yeah, true.
And Laredo.
Yeah, very true.
And so, you wind up going there and all that. And, what was that transition like into the summer, going into the fall of your freshman year? Because, you're a long way from mom and dad. Was mom and dad real supportive of you going out there? What was that transition like from being a high school star to now being a freshman in the ACC?
Mm-hmm. It's very, so my dad was still rooting for Rice. So I already applied to Rice. And like I said, you need to get accepted before you, get in, because they want to reserve, they have like 5 slots. They want to reserve those slots for people who are really good, who can't get in.
Yeah.
So it was the day my admissions letter came out for Rice. And I was like, I hope I don't get in. I hope I don't get in, because I didn't want to have to explain to my dad that I said no to Rice. But I got in, and then I was like, no, I had to have the whole conversation with him. And he was not happy at first. He wanted me to follow my dreams, obviously, and he was very supportive, but he was also heartbroken as a parent. And because I would be so far away.
Yeah.
And so we kind of were, touching on the subject for a little bit. Like, I couldn't really celebrate. I didn't want to celebrate too much just because, it would hurt him. Yeah. Especially me going so far away. But, one day I get into the house and he's wearing a UVA hat, and I'm like, And yeah, once I had my signing and everything, he was very supportive, but it did take some work. So I was always very independent. I was ready to move out, like, already from my parents' house. And if I'm going to be transparent, like, I was very independent and ready to do all of that. So I came here, and it was great. It's like a fresh start when you get to college. You don't really, I didn't know anyone, like, literally at all, just Coach Merrick.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. At this time, I think you were the only Texas person on that entire team roster, right?
There was one Texas person, but she had moved around. Yeah. And she was already there for a little while. She had moved around. And she was from Dallas. So it was still far, it's far enough to be basically in another state.
And I'm sure
if we're talking about the Northeast.
Where Laredo, Texas was, or
no, and they'll ask, and I'll be like, South Texas. They're like, where? And I'm like, well, Laredo. And then they're like, well, where? I'm like, you don't need to ask where. I'll just tell you South Texas. Yeah.
Hey, go to San Antonio, take a right.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I didn't really know anyone, but I just I just remember that I have to be myself and talk to people. You have dorms, so you get to know people that way, and you join different groups, go to different events, meet people.
Who's your roommate your freshman year?
My roommate was she's a middle distance. Her name's Amelia. So they pair up people on the team and try not to do your same events group. So you get to know people from other events group. Yeah.
Oh, so she's still your roommate?
No, she's not my roommate anymore. Right now, my roommate so we don't live in dorms anymore. We live in apartments. So right now I'm rooming with Telma, which is the Icelandic discus thrower.
Okay.
Yeah, she's my roommate.
Nice.
So we became close. We became very close through practicing and basically being together every day.
Yeah. And that was good, man. That your throwing environment, that squad that he has there, that for you coming into that freshman year, kind of had to be like, oh my God, because Jordan Young was there, Po Boy was there, the javelin thrower was there, and just your current roommate. There's some high level throwers, and his reputation as a coach of the guy that that won the NCAA in the discus. It starts with his M. What's his last name?
Philip Markovich.
Yes, thank you. There's legendary throwers he's produced, and you're like, oh my God, I'm out here practicing with these guys.
Yeah, crazy. It was really insane. So Philip had already left before, but Jordan had been staying. He's been an assistant coach here since the semester he just left.
Okay.
But it was insane, like getting to the weight room and seeing them lift all this heavy weight. So I was more just really observing and making sure I absorbed everything, their energy, and staying optimistic about the process. And that was one of the biggest things that coach told me is the first year, there's not really any expectation on me. It's more, we're going to have a lot of technical changes and you're going to start lifting very seriously. I also, you might have injuries, which I did have an injury my first year. And so it was a lot thrown at me, especially with school, obviously, but I really enjoyed it. And those people were very pivotal to me because they were inspirational. You see these people every day and you get to know more about them. And now when coach is taking videos of me, I go back to when I was in high school looking at people he was taking videos of that were before me. And it felt like a dream. My whole first year felt like a dream. I would wake up, go to the track, and there's that mountain behind the track, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, why am I here? I don't even know how I got here. Like, crazy.
That's so awesome.
Now, some of the technical changes that I'm sure he was. Now, did you pick up shot put back up your freshman year? Because I know, we didn't even talk about your hurdling career senior year in high school.
I didn't have a hurdling career.
Oh, come on now. You were 5th and 4th place at Flower Buff.
Yeah, crazy. And also, I think Miles Split also messed up one time. I threw 150 feet in shot put or something. I want to say there was an article about that.
Impressive.
All right. So for the official record, did you run the hurdles in high school?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So
huge lie.
All right. We'll
conspiracy theory,
So getting back, did you do a shop? What was like? Was he just going to make you a discus thrower? Kind of what was the conversation with him? Or were you going to come in and maybe learn hammer or kind of what was that thought process?
Yeah. So first year I didn't do shot put. I want to say I did some like release drills.
Okay.
But I didn't really throw a shot put. It wasn't a focus of mine. We had really great shot putter back then, so there wasn't really a need for it. And it was mostly just discus. And I want to say I started learning some javelin. Like I learned how to release it that year.
Okay.
So that was what first year was like. But that was just for fun. Like coach always says, like obviously we take throws seriously, but you also need to have an event that's just your fun event where you get so frustrated with discus sometimes you just need to go and do something else for one day. And it's supplemental too. So yeah, that was basically my first year. And for technique changes, I was just really working on staying straighter with my arms and getting that sweep down.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I also changed my discus turn a little bit, which I've since then reversed back to the way I used to hold it before. But it's very interesting. You just change the hold of the discus and it changes the whole timing of stuff sometimes. So
So your actual grip on the discus you changed?
So no, out of the back, instead of holding it, flat this way and then turning in the middle, I would turn right away.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think that it worked for a long time, but then as I started changing other stuff, I just felt more comfortable with turning a little bit later in the throw instead, turning the discus over a little bit later. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
But it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of trial and error.
So in in 2019 in outdoors, you had a pretty good freshman year for discus.
Yeah, my first competition. My first competition was great. I threw 48 meters, which was pretty close to my high school PR, which is a great way to open it up. Then I got a shoulder injury. So I couldn't do any more bench press. I couldn't do clean snatches. And that actually lasted for up until this past year. I started doing 2021, I started doing cleans and snatches again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was a lot of adjustment. The first, obviously this happens with a lot of people, but I got injured. And so the recommendation was to take some time off, right? So take some time off and not do anything. And it wasn't until a year passes by that I was, in my halfway through my sophomore year, I realized, okay, well, I can do modifications of these instead. So I started doing modifications, and then that's when my throw started going up again, and then the whole COVID stuff happened, and I'm sure we'll get into that.
and that was because you redshirted both indoors in 2018 and in 2019. So while you've been there, you haven't had much of a throwing season yet.
No.
And tie that in with COVID.
Yes.
It's kind of a little frustrating.
It is frustrating because it's like, oh my goodness, I've been in college now 4 years and I have only improved let's say not even 10 feet. I've improved 4 feet, right? It seems like what is going on, but you need to learn how to compete. And if that whole season that I missed of COVID, not to mention that I missed 7 months of training because I didn't get out of my house during that time, I could only do what I could, they closed down a lot of the throwing rings and schools that were around. So I could only do what I could. So that injury happened first year. And so I had that really great throw opener, and then it was going downhill from there, right? So that's when you can tell that there's an issue with when I'm peaking, my injury, and learning how to compete. So then sophomore year comes around. Actually, the week before I'm going to compete, I threw shot put maybe twice just for fun. And then coach says, this is our last practice before we have our first meet. He says, oh, Sadie, I'm going to put you into the shot put for our opening. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. He's like, no, for real. You're going to be in the shot put. And I was like, you're kidding. I was like, oh, no. So it's that last practice. And this is spring break of March, if you can get where I'm headed to. So I'm like, oh, my God, coach. Okay, whatever. So I started throwing discus, had the best practice ever. I was hitting about 47 meters, just non-reverse.
Oh, wow.
Which is really great for me. So I finally got into the groove of coach and I had a specific training plan. We're going to do 2 technical throws, then 2 throws, just full out, right? Not thinking about technique. And that just really helped so much. And then at the end of that practice, that's when we all checked our phones, and it was the announcement that we were not going to be doing athletics until further notice.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, that had best practice ever. That happened. They closed lots of athletic facilities, all the gyms, everything was closed. I was there in Charlottesville. I couldn't travel back home because of COVID. So I was stuck in Charlottesville. Luckily, my boyfriend, who I started dating at the time, he was able to take me in with his family. So I was there I went to around DC area where he lived, and I was in his parents' house for 2 months. Oh, wow. And then I finally got back to Texas. And I couldn't really do much either. It was just, everything was closed. I could only do with what the equipment I had.
Yeah.
So it was difficult. And that was 7 months of just doing dumbbell workouts.
Wow. And were you fully recovered from your injury, or were you still kind of in that rehab phase?
And so I was still kind of in the rehab phase.
Okay.
I was able to throw without any issues again. That was the goal, right? To throw without any issues. But still I couldn't bench press and stuff. So I took that time to work on some simple things like doing push-ups and stuff like that. What happens is I think I have either bicep tendonitis or something with my shoulder blade that I needed to do a lot of rehab for.
Okay.
So yeah, that semester before I had been doing rehab, it had been going great. And then we transitioned to home life for COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. But finally 2021 comes around and you get to have an outdoor season.
Yep. So that was the first summer that I hadn't trained in the summer. I had always trained in the summer because I never wanted to be unprepared going into everything. But COVID was pretty difficult also. I mean, we're lifting with double masks, which was a lot harder. You lift less weight, but I mean, I had a really great cardio at the time from that. And I also stayed for the winter because if I went home, I had to quarantine. And that was the first season where I felt like if I had a couple more weeks, it could have been a bigger PR. I had really done good at improving every single meet rather than just hitting a big one and that was it. So I was very consistent. And yeah, now we're here and looking for the 2022 season and seeing what's ahead there, seeing if all these years are going to finally add up.
I'm sure they will. Now, what are you studying now and how's the academic side? You
stole my question.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to
Ask her.
What
are you doing robotics there?
I was going to let y'all get finished with your throwing question.
Have you cured cancer, Sadie?
Like academically, what made you interested in Virginia and what is your major?
Yeah, so I told myself, okay, if I'm going to go to Rice, I'm probably going to do biomedical engineering. If I'm going to go to Virginia, I'm going to do environmental science. Okay. And the reason was because in environmental science, they have a lot of research programs here. And after, this was senior year, I did a program with MIT for coding, it was engineering coding program. And so I visited MIT and I realized, I don't want to do engineering. Like I just, it's not for me. I don't feel passionate or excited about it. I can do it, but I don't feel passionate or excited about it. But I did really find a love for environmental sciences through a couple of my classes in high school. So that's why I chose UVA was because they have I would think it's better than Texas just because you can actually go out and there's a lot of study areas like our Chesapeake Bay. We have the Blue Ridge Mountains around us, and there's a lot more to study around here.
Nice.
What I didn't know was that there is to go back, I'm an environmental science major. From day one, I didn't switch my major. I knew from the beginning that was going to be it, and that's what I chose. But what I didn't know is that there is an intersection between sports and environmental science, between our sporting venues, the waste we create, the clothing we're wearing, and sports. So my second year here at Virginia, I started my internship at the sustainability office, and I really worked. So now I work with UVA and the ACC with student athletes and sustainability related topics, and that's really my passion now.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. So you're interned as a green athlete?
Green athletics, yeah. That's
go ahead. I'm
term.
sorry.
Yeah, that's the term that we use.
Term, okay. And you're also a member of Eco Athletic Championship roster as well.
Yes.
So explain those two organizations and what they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Green Athletics here at UVA. There's one internship that's open, and that's the internship that I'm doing. The idea of it is to bridge the communication gap between our sustainability office and our athletics department. Okay. Because it's interesting. So all the events that the regular university runs are gone through the sustainability office, but then athletics is a whole separate department. But athletics still needs to comply with general university standards. So they need to somehow bridge the gap between their and student athlete experience. And there's a lot. So Green Athletics is basically a group of student athletes that I lead and manage so we can run events. Some of them like plant-based food event, some of them about racial inequities and different gender inequities and different sustainability issues. So that's the premise of Green Athletics, and talk also waste minimization at athletics events. And then for Eco Athletes, that's just a group of professional athletes that are focused on the topic of climate change and combating climate change. And they're just introducing college athletes. So I'm part of that initiative.
Oh, wow. So what's the next step in that for you with being part of that organization? Just kind of give us a couple examples.
Yeah, so working with sustainability sponsors, talking to other student athletes, and hopefully recruiting more student athletes so we can talk about NIL opportunities, or we can talk about our own personal stories and share them with the world. It's more of an advocacy type of group, and we can also attend different conferences as athlete representatives. Oh, wow. Which would be like different sustainability conferences.
Is there websites and stuff where, like, if somebody hears this, they can go on and kind of check it out and all that?
Yeah, it would be Eco Athletes. You can just search that up and it's the first thing that comes up. But yeah, and then you can join that group, and it's honestly, networking is the key to a lot of our issues, and not only solving those issues, but, you know, finding out about them. So it's more of a networking group, and I've just met incredible people through there. So I'm really grateful for that. And, you know, throwing is a really important part of my life, but it's not everything. And I don't think it should be anyone's single identity.
Yeah. Is that something you're going to look into doing after your throwing career is over, like post collegiately? Are you looking to get your master's and move on to something that?
Yeah. So right now I'm in the job search process. Okay. We'll see where that I'm in the process of doing interviews and submitting applications and everything, and mostly for sustainability consulting, but also I want to stay in the sports industry. So I have coaching. I have a long history of coaching experience. I'm really great at that. So it's difficult because there's a lot of things I'm passionate about. And there's a lot of things you can do with sports. I mean, you could do coaching, you can do like student athlete development, you can do, right. We're all really good at being detail oriented. Yeah. We're good at scheduling. We have all the skills to be great. And while that's awesome, it also makes it more difficult because you need to narrow in on finding your niche. So yeah.
Awesome.
Are you looking to stay in the Charlottesville and Virginia area, or are you looking to come back home?
I am. That's a difficult question. I think it depends on the job. So like there's not a lot of environmental science opportunities that pay well in Texas yet. So I'd probably stay on the East Coast for a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm. I have to ask, are you still with the boyfriend, or you moved on?
Yes, I am.
I'm just getting clarification on that.
This family may have been pretty hot. Yeah,
they were like, can she leave now? No. Excuse me. Tying it back to Coach Martin a little bit. He has a podcast as well. He's very popular on social media. There's even a video of him coaching you on YouTube and a couple of throwing of shot put you're doing. What has that experience been like, 3 to 4 years later from coming in your freshman year to work with someone of his caliber?
Mm-hmm. He is extremely humble. I remember one time the people who are older than me were saying, like, yeah, he was just like, okay, I'm going to be gone for a week. Like, you're going to be with this assistant coach instead. And they're like, okay, like, all right, we'll see you. And he comes back, and he came back from the Winter Olympics, like the bobsled team. What? Like he's a very humble person. So being with him has not been difficult. I love to pick his brain and ask him questions. The best thing about it is that if I have a question, he knows exactly how to answer it. Not only explain the way it looks, but explain the way it feels, and also show me. So, I mean, some of the best moments, I think most memorable moments for me was when freshman year I came, and there were some days. So we train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Uh-huh. And on Wednesdays is kind of like our off day / recovery day. And what we do then is do our fun event, or we can get some extra throws in. And for some reason that day, it was just me and coach on a Wednesday afternoon. And he brought his throwing shoes and we threw together. And it was a crazy experience for me, because this is an Olympic, a 2-time Olympian in the discus. And I'm throwing with him.
Champion in the discus.
Yeah. And so it was awesome, because when you see him throw, it kind of clicks, like, oh, that's how the rhythm is supposed to be. That's how this is supposed to be. And it was just an amazing experience. And even in the weight room, like, he's just crazy. we'll all be lifting, and obviously Pobo was there, and he's incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And sometimes he would just jump in, like not even warming up, just doing like 200 kilos and I don't know, like squat, just randomly just go in.
Was it and I have to ask this, and he's from Croatia, you're dealing with y'all's throwing group at that time during your 4 years have been very diverse. That had to be such a cool experience, you being from Laredo, Texas, him from Croatia. I can't even think where Pobo's from, your roommate from, she's from a different country. Man, that has to be amazing. Not only you get to throw these people, but you get to learn about different cultures as well.
Yeah, it was great. And it's also, I guess the harder part of that is there are some people we're all very different personalities, right? We have Pobo, who's like crazy, who just yell it up in the gym. And then we have people who are like me. I'm a little more serious when it comes to stuff. But somehow it just all melds together, and it's so interesting to learn about people. So Pobo was also like a chess national champion, which is like crazy, right? And like I mean, there's some other stuff, like Jade got into law school. She's at Georgetown now, and it's just so many people are doing such great things, and you're able to see that not only are they passionate for sport, but they're just passionate about life in general. So it's interesting to see how their cultures tie in with that, because we're all from different places, but somehow all of our cultures have led us to the same kind of path in life, which is really interesting.
That is amazing. That is really, really cool. I'm curious, and what, we kind of, like I said, we broadcast this for Texas and stuff like that. And hopefully there's some young girls listening, that want to follow in your footsteps. What would be a couple of, pointers that you would give them on getting recruited, but also the balance of getting that education to go maybe pursue that throwing in college as well, sort of like you did with the high academics? What would be some pointers that you would give them if they're listening?
Yeah, it's all about time management in high school. You're going to need to make sacrifices if you want to reach those goals. I didn't go to prom. I didn't do parties. I'm not saying that you can't, but I made those sacrifices because I knew that long-term it's going to pay off. So high school, sometimes you can get wrapped up in I want to go to this party. I want to hang out with so-and-so. But really, I think you need to look at the long-term of your life, because those people you meet in high school, some of them will be your lifelong friends, but also not very many, maybe one, two of them, if any. So it's very important that you put yourself first and your goals first in those circumstances. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to suck, but it's going to pay off in the end. So time management is one of those keys that you need to prioritize, right? Another one is record your throws, or whatever event you're doing, record them and compare them with different athletes, and make a playlist of your favorite throws, because you're going to have to do cold emails, where you don't know a coach or anything. So don't be scared to ask for help. Don't be scared to reach out. And I think those are the main ones. Your own dedication and voice will speak for itself when you're talking to someone. You don't need to prove to anyone that you're dedicated by telling them about it. You prove it by showing them. You prove it by doing that time management, and you prove it by reaching out to different coaches. And I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, be a person of action.
Great point. So I have to ask, has your dad got more than a shirt? I mean, more than a hat now? Is he, UVA decked out?
He has shoes.
He got shoes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if they came out to see you throw any and visit Charlottesville?
My mom came to visit me this past summer, and she didn't get to see me throw because it was after our season. But sometimes we're on ACC Network, or I'll send them my throws, and day to day I'll be like, "Hey mom, this was a throw. It was really good." And yeah.
Cool. Do you still talk to the family or hear anything on the family that kind of took you to those lessons and stuff?
Yes, I do. We connect occasionally. I would say at least once, twice a year, and we're still very close. So I'll forever be grateful for them. And I'm ready to update them and tell them how this 2022 season goes. My
final question is, how much weight have you gained from now? Because we were looking in my research there, there's some pictures of you in your United uniform. You got on black glasses. You were pretty skinny back in the day, and now you got some shoulders and some traps on you.
Yep. Let's see, how much have I gained? So when I first came, I would say I gained about 20 pounds, in total.
Muscle.
Muscle.
Yeah, well, 15 to 20 pounds, depending, Yeah, but it was crazy. Like, after my first year, I started repping out my max and squats. I was like, what is going on?
Wow. Wow. So what's the goal for this year? What's the goal going into the outdoor season?
I guess something else I have to bring up is mental health wise during COVID and the importance of mental health in sports. I was obsessed with wanting to be the best instead of wanting to be my best for a couple years. And so now I'm focused on being my best, and I can only control the things that I do. I can't control the outcomes of those things. So I'm really hoping, I'm sure I'll get past that 50 meters this year, but more so than anything, this is my last year of throwing potentially. And my goal is to really put it all out there in my training.
Okay.
And let my training speak for itself in competition. And that's something I also did in high school my senior year, and it really paid off in dividends. So that's really what I want for this semester, is just my goal is to be my best, is not really to compare myself to any marks, because your actions can sometimes speak louder than the distance you throw.
Yeah. Great point.
I love that.
I like that. I think we talk with some kids and they get caught up in, being the Valerie Almonds and the Ryan Crowds and, or the Michael Johnsons and, or the Pat Mahomeses of the world. They want to be the best and make all the money. But sometimes how about just be the best you can be?
And you know what? Whenever you become the best that you can be, most of the time it leads to being the best. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. And that's what I've been struggling with these past couple of years, especially being with such high level athletes in my own program. And that's just something I have to keep reminding myself of, is be your best every day, be your best every day. Don't compare yourself to coach's reaction between your throws and another person's throws, because you're all at a different place and we all have a different journey.
Yeah. That's for true. Very true. Well, Sadey, it's amazing to hear your story. Thank you. I followed you from a distance. I always was like, how did she wind up in Virginia?
Well, now you know.
I know. It was what a cool story. And that's a cool thing about throwing, and I like the fact that you took the initiative and went and did that, and, and something positive came out of that. And, thanks for Coach Martin and, taking it like, wow, let's bring this girl in. Because I'm sure he's never been to Laredo, Texas.
No, yeah. It was crazy. I was like, thank you, Coach. What the, I'm still shocked. I'm like, I think right now, so we have a new head coach. I'm like, I think right now I wouldn't even be recruited for UVA. We're such high level now. It's shocking to me. I'm glad I got in at the time I did, but.
Well, Sadey, thank you so much. Tell Coach we said hello. God bless y'all. Good luck.
Good luck.
And hope you're watching. Go be your best you. But personally, I would love to see you get that 50 meters. I think you will. So represent Laredo United. So have a good throw there and make your parents proud for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on here. This was a great conversation.
Go for it.
We would like to thank Sadey Rodriquez out of University of Virginia and Laredo High out of Laredo, Texas for being on. What a great story. Just a girl that, was dedicated and focused at an early age. That was very obvious. You could just see it in her face, and having the willpower to succeed in high school and go to state 3 times. And, she might not got the looks that she was looking for. And, she kind of willed it. She kind of, sent out these emails, created a profile, knew what she wanted to do. And Coach Martin Marnique at University of Virginia, got that email and he replied. And that was cool because sometimes I'm sure he gets hundreds of emails.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I'm not looking at that. I'm not answering that. But he answered hers, and look where she is now. And I love the fact, too, that she's more than just a thrower. I love the fact that she has purpose with her eco athletes journey, with her green athletics journey, and what she's doing education wise. I know she's going to be a great thrower for her senior year, but also you can just tell she's going to have a great life, a great mom, a great wife, great career ahead of her.
Great advice to kids. All the things about time management, high school athletes or college athletes, and prove it by showing it with your actions for yourself instead of just all of your words, your actions. And then probably the best part is be your best. Be the best you can be. Like we all can't be Ron Krauser or Valerie Allman. We're not 6'7", or we're not all that. So you be your best every day, whatever your best is, and don't play the comparison game.
And that's a great point, because you can get caught up in what everybody else is doing, and that can be affect you mentally for sure.
And can be a detriment because you're like, I will never be Ron Krauser, so I might as well not even be. Well,
that's
be
true.
You can't. There are some things that we can never be that, but we can be our best. So
yeah, for sure.
There you have it.
Well, thanks so much,
Sadey.
Sadey, good luck to you. We'll see y'all down the road.
All right, let's thank our sponsors again. Texas Track and Field Coaches Association, TTFCA. Go check them out.
Not check them out.
No, I say that all the time. What else am I supposed to say other than check them out? Look it up. Google it. I don't know what else you're supposed to say. Peek it. Look at. I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to say. Do not go check them out, but you can go Google them. Yeah. Texas Track and Field Coach Station for anything you want. Coaches, anything you want for track and field. Fourthrows.com. Do not go check them out. You can go look it up and find some Fiber Sport Discus and then all the other things that fourthrows.com has.
And use the code TalkingThrows10.
Yes. Check it out too. At checkout, use the code Talking.
Yeah, at checkout, please.
All right, and Porta Circle, go to porta-circle.com to get you a great Porta Circle where you can throw no matter what the weather is. It's cold in Virginia, it's a little cold here in Texas, but get you a Porta Circle. If you live in Austin, Ready Up Athletic Development, go to readyupad.com. Check out Zach. He's always doing lots of great things. And then, of course, the throwingfactory.com. We got Coach Kai Smith, we got Coach Jarvis, we've got us who are doing lessons. With middle school track season coming up, you got a little middle schooler, reach out to me. Love to introduce your kid to some throwing so they can get out there and have a little bit of an idea before all those middle school track tryouts start.
And that's something too that, we're starting to get a lot of calls. If you're 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, if you're right at that pre-junior high area, you want to see it throwing. Is something your kid wants to do because it's an individual sport and they got to kind of grow into throwing. Nobody's going to go out at 9 years old and break world records, but Coach Chanel is going to be an expert in getting them a good foundation to get them where they need to be and be successful maybe in the high school year. Then also too, we want to remind everybody to go shopping at thethrowingfactory.com on the apparel. There's hats, there's jackets. Janelle's wearing a cool fleece jacket now that's part of our thing on the back. We got podcast t-shirts, hats. There's everything. There's backpacks. There's towels on the website. So go buy those and you'll get discounts and you'll look cool at your next track meet.
Hello, Talking Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
And then finally, our favorite lifting company, Lifting DFW Human Performance. We can basically take a young lady that's a no-star athlete and develop them and work them and hopefully turn them into maybe a D1 recruit or a D2 recruit, just depending on what her ambition is. So go check us out at liftingdfw.com. I just said check us out.
He said check us out.
She's wearing off on me. I'm sorry, you two.
I don't know what else you're supposed to say.
Go to Lifting DFW Human Performance, and you'll find some great information on there. And if you need our contact information, they'll be on that site or the thornfactory.com website.
That's it. Don't check it out. What else are you supposed to say?
Go to.